lot of folks in this space are like that, especially in smaller family kind of owned
Right,
companies.
right. And sometimes the kids, like, they see what mom and dad do, and they're like, I don't know if I want to go through that. But it's more of a generational thing. Yeah. And one of the questions on there is, how many hours a week do you work? And they're like, over 60. And I tell them, I said, we baby boomers, we wear that as a badge, man. It's
inventors of the 60-hour work week, my friend.
Exactly. Yeah. Millennials and Gen X don't want to do that.
They're trying to do that. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snyder, hanging out with our new friend, Matt. I would say that it was interesting because I was talking about this with another guest. There's only 2 guests in all of the shows that I did not know prior to the show. So usually I've shaken somebody's hand, we've cracked a beer together, we've done something like that.
Well, we did do that.
Well, we did do that, right? Yes. It's a whole experience when you come on the podcast. But it's been awesome getting to know you over the last 24 hours, I guess.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And you have it's very unique, actually. There's a few things that when I saw your original profile, why I was like, wow, this seems super interesting. So number one, you're a CEXP, right? So
a
CEXP,
right.
A certified exit planner versus our certified exit planning advisors. And I was telling you pre-show, I have John Brown's book in my bookcase.
Right.
And I have this always unique thing. So I practice exit planning as an educator and advisors, if you will, but I live it as a business owner too. So I'm like Curious George. I'm always trying to absorb different approaches and knowledge. And I think it's one of the coolest things about exit planning is that there's not necessarily one way to do it.
Oh, no. Right? Well, and every situation's different, too.
Exactly.
So you've got to have multiple approaches.
Right. And you have a specialization. So you help families create multi-generational wealth, right?
Correct.
Through your company called High Lift Financial. Did you name your company because you're in the collision repair, High Lift?
I did a whole rebrand.
Okay,
I did a whole rebrand.
So the next interesting thing about you is that you have this really cool specialization in collision repair shops. So,
correct.
And I don't know really anything about them. I only like the high level what you see. So I got all kinds of stuff to ask you about that particular industry. So let's kind of dive in.
Okay.
So I was talking about John Brown. So I think John's book was published in 1998.
Right.
And I want to say BEI might have been being founded in 1995, but so mid to late 90s.
Yes.
EPI didn't come around until 2005, and our first SEPA program was 2007.
Right.
So, what is your perspective going through that training? What's your perspective and approach to exit planning as a professional advisor to owners?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've been working with family businesses throughout my career in financial services, and even before that, in my previous life, came from a family business.
Okay.
I had my dad and grandfather and uncle were attorneys, had a practice, had a falling out. My dad left the firm, so I know the dynamics of the family business, how that works.
Yep.
And it was interesting because I was doing exit planning, not really knowing. I was just slinging mud. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I have a group of peers. We have a mastermind group that my coach put together, and one of them had mentioned BEI and said, "Oh, you ought to look into their program." So I did. I did their boot camp, and then decided to do their advanced exit planning training.
Right.
Did that. It was 4 months intensive study, and then took the exam. The exam was 2 case studies.
That's unique and different from us.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And it was really helpful because you did one insider transfer, which family and or key employee, and then one third party sale. So, and really where my focus is with a lot of these is on the insider transfer. So transferring to family members and key employees, because I have nothing against a third party sale. And I think, in some cases that's your option. And that may be your best option.
Sure.
And again, if you don't have any family members or key employees, then that liquidity event is what you can create the multi-generational wealth with.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but and I'll give you a story. It was back in November. I was at the Collision Industry Conference, which is like we do those 4 times a year, and we piggybacked it off SEMA, which is the big trade show. And I was on a panel with 4 M&A people. I was the only non-M&A person, and they were talking about consolidation in the market, what's happening, and so Frank Turlip, who's the president of CIC, he was moderating it, and the last question he asked, he said, do you think that the industry is going to become like the Home Depots, the Lowe's, the Walmarts? Yeah. And I happened to have the mic in my hand, and I just blurted it out, just over my dead body, and everybody laughed. And I said, I said, look, I said it's not that, and I'm not banging on the consolidators, I'm not banging on the big box stores, but I think the independent, family-owned business has a very unique place, and I always relate it to the hardware industry because. We have a Home Depot and a Lowe's in our neighborhood. And we also have Bantley Hardware. And Bantley Hardware is the 70-year-old family-owned store. And if I go down there, if I've got a leaky faucet, I go down there and say, hey, I've got a Moen faucet, it's leaking. They'll show me, okay, well, you need this piece, you need this, and they'll actually show me how to do it.
Right.
And, so you get that personalized service. I pay more, but I'm okay with that because I'd rather support a local business and also get that personalized service.
Absolutely.
And I think the collision industry is like that too. And I think, nobody's going to take better care of their families, their employees, their community than the independent business.
Well, these are the guys that sponsor the ball team, right? And they're super integrated into the community.
Exactly.
But you were always doing that, right? So you come out of like the big wirehouses, right? Is where
Correct.
You came out of
I started with UBS.
Yeah.
Then we were bought in 2009 by Stiefel Nicholas.
Yep. Got it. Yep.
And what was happening was, I'll give you the brief story. To backtrack, when I got into the business, didn't have access to any money. Had no rich friends, no rich family, nothing. I mean, which was suicide in the financial service industry.
Right.
So I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? So I knew muni bonds and I learned 401ks. So that's how I built my practice. I'd spend all day calling businesses, family businesses. Do you have a 401k plan? Do you know the tax advantages of it? I do have one. Have you had it reviewed? And so I was selling 401k plans. And then at night I'd call physicians and I'd sell them University of Pittsburgh Medical Center bonds, AA rated, 5.5% tax free. So what happened was I sold these 401ks, then built relationships with these business owners. They became personal clients. Then I started, kind of getting more involved in just the nuances of the family business.
Yeah.
So basically, because being with the wirehouse, I was restricted by compliance.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of compliance.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
So I started my own independent firm, and that was basically the original iteration was DeFrancesco Financial Concierge.
Yeah,
and
right.
I
saw that.
I was the financial point person, personal CFO, and then kind of people didn't really know what a concierge was.
Sure.
So I kind of evolved into the virtual family office type of thing. And
right.
I would have all these team members. And basically, it's like exit planning. It's the same thing where the client would have the problem. I was the point person. I would bring in whoever we needed. So then we started getting into the transition planning. And actually, I met a collision shop owner on a plane to Miami. He and his wife. We got chatting, asked me what I did. Told him, he says, oh, do you do business succession? And I'm thinking, okay, it needs buy-sell agreement, key man insurance.
Right.
And so he gives me his card, call him when I get back and find out, he's got 2 boys in the business. He wants to transition it to them, but he's not sure if they're capable, and there's all this conflict. And so I kind of take on this exit planning job, not really knowing what I'm doing. And I'm searching I'm Googling, trying to figure out, what do I do next? What do I do next?
Exactly.
And so that's kind of got me into my foray with collision shop owners.
Yeah, I was going to say, so 2013, you start your firm, but you're not specific to collision at all.
No.
So you meet this guy, he kind of influences that. How do you get the idea to go, you know what? I think I'm going to work with these guys.
Yeah, so I was working with him, and I really enjoyed him. I really liked them because they're just down-to-earth people.
Yeah.
They're real. I'm not a country club guy. I mean,
right.
It's they like to hunt. They like to fish. They like to play. They like to shoot guns. They like to ride their motorcycles, race cars, all that kind of stuff. And just down-to-earth people. And I had a couple other collision shop owners that started to come across my radar. And so I was talking to my coach, and we were talking about just kind of the limited marketplace that I had. And
because you're from where? Johnstown?
Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So
we're small community, right?
Small community, dying steel town.
Yep.
After the steel industry left, we had defense contracting for a while, but when our representative died, that all went away. And so So we figured, how do we create a national voice? And we figured it was by niching. So I was looking at different different industries, and I did research on the collision industry. And it was, there was 40,000 collision shops in the country. 14,000 of those do $1 million and up in revenue. 70% of them are independent, family owned.
Wow.
47% of the owners are between 50 and 65. 40% gross profit. And I'm like, I think these are my guys. And so I dove in whole hog. I went totally in.
But you didn't know. We were talking about this last night too. You didn't really know a lot about collision repair centers, did you?
No.
So how did you start learning, reading, experiencing? I mean, with the owners themselves?
Yep. I just basically with working with the clients, I've learned through that. I subscribed to the industry publications. Would read about that, and then what I did was I would read like the industry publications, and if there was an article that resonated with me, I would send it to my marketing team and say, "Hey, get so-and-so on my podcast."
Yeah.
And really I use my podcast more for developing circles of influence.
100%. So it's for the audience who navigate, we'll leave it in the show notes or whatever, but navigate over there because you got a lot of content on there too.
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts, white papers, articles, all kinds of stuff. So to your point, you've really made like a center of information for folks. And you could see if you, as preparing for our show, right? You dive down all the way to like 2018, 19 on the website. You're not talking about collision stuff yet, right?
Right.
So you could see your niche and your transition over there. So the one thing that comes up a lot in the EPI community, particularly both to your point in the warehouse, you can't really, you got a lot of restriction, a lot of compliance.
Right.
But when you're independent, you can do a little bit more stuff.
Yes.
So are you doing both business succession and exit planning and financial advisory, and you've blended that into High Lift?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So actually when after I got my CXP and I started holding myself out as an exit planner that does financial planning.
Okay.
And I found that what that did, it kind of limited me.
Okay.
Because I was just getting the guys that were like 68 years old and saying, I need to get out now. So I shifted my focus to I'm a financial advisor that does exit planning. So because I'll get guys that, I'll get a prospect that comes in and they're 60, 65, 68 years old. They're burned out. They're tired of dealing with the insurance companies. They can't find tax. I just can't do this anymore. I have no family members that are interested. My key employees don't want to own the business. I got to sell. So what I do is I have contacts in M&A. I connect them, and what I do is I help them to develop the personal vision and the financial plan and then identify where the gap is. So then when we get the numbers back on evaluation, now we can say, okay, well, we got to do some things here to close this gap if you want to live the lifestyle that you want.
Right, exactly right.
So I can pivot either way.
Got it, yeah. So when you go speak at these conferences and stuff, are you like the only guy doing what you're doing there?
Pretty much.
Yeah, there's a woman that's on our faculty. Her name's Amy Wirtz.
Okay.
So it's quite a funny story though, or odd story. So she was my divorce attorney.
Oh, really?
Right?
Okay.
And we did like a collaborative like dissolution, right, in my first marriage.
Right.
And when she got to know me and my dad, and then our business EPI, right? And she said, "There's a lot of collaboration that goes on here. This is like super attractive space for me,
right?
And for whatever reason, I'm getting a little burnt out in doing divorce stuff, and so maybe I'll use some of that collaboration and stuff that I have in these dissolutions and bring it into there and into families." So she ends up becoming a SEPA, ends up getting into family farming, right, and advising that space. And what she learned in the third and fourth generations is that those kids didn't want to farm anymore, but they had thousands of acres. They started turning them into RV and campground resorts. So now, similar to you, she specializes in the campground space, and she goes to their big annual conference, and she's like the only person teaching these owners about that. And when I owned my landscaping company, I remember going to the Planet Land Care Network annual conference, our industry conference down in Louisville, and there was no one talking about what you're talking about. So it's got to be kind of unique for you.
Oh, it really is. It really is. And it resonates. I mean, it's interesting. Most of my business comes from referrals from my M&A people.
Okay.
Who are like, they get people to call them and they're like, well, I do have a family member, but I don't know how to navigate this, or I've got a key employee that's interested, but I don't really know what to do. They bring them to me. I help them to figure out kind of what that personal vision is, and then if it's back to third party sale, bring them back over here.
Yeah.
But then also body shop business articles.
Right.
And I get a lot of them. I tell you what, anytime an article comes out in body shop business, I mean, I get 5, 6, 7 inquiries. I mean, in a week.
Wow.
In a week, yeah.
So take me down the path of I want to understand these collision repair shop owners. So I would assume, are they a lot family owned?
About 70% of them are family owned.
So 70% is what you said.
But that's shrinking down now because the consult PE's throwing a lot of money at these places.
Well, I was going to ask, right? So when you look at their exit options, so they have built-in successors with their sons and daughters?
Most of the time, no. I mean, sometimes it's in their head.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is most collision shop owners, I mean, they're great technicians. They're not very good business people.
Well, they're very, they know their craft well.
That's it.
They know their craft well. So
Right.
what are some of the readiness issues that you see with them from them? So they know their craft well, but
Right.
they haven't really thought long-term exit.
That's exactly right. And so part of it is that they think the kids have learned through osmosis. Okay. So they assume, honestly, they do, because, they just did it
Yes.
and never really taught it. And the kids were around, but, the kids see the success.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden now they come into the business and they're running it, and they're not running it the way, well, you're not doing this or you're not doing that. And they're like, oh, we don't know what to do.
Right.
And so there's a lot of disconnect. And that's where, having somebody like Pete Walsh, the family counselor,
Yes,
sometimes I need to
yes.
bring somebody like him in
Right.
to, basically navigate some of that stuff. I always say I'm probably 90% psychologist, 10%
Well, of course,
financial
right? A
guy.
lot of folks in this space are like that, especially in smaller family kind of owned
Right,
companies.
right. Expectations, and sometimes the kids, like, they see what mom and dad do, and they're like, I don't know if I want to go through that. But it's more of a generational thing. I tell my guys all the time, I have them do this assessment. Through exit, I use the exit map assessment.
Okay, yeah.
And one of the questions on there is how many hours a week do you work? And they're like, over 60. And I tell them, I said, we baby boomers, we wear that as a badge, man. It's like,
Inventors of the 60-hour work week, my friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Millennials and Gen X don't want to do
They're
that.
not trying to do that, no.
So now I have to kind of guide the owner into, we got to kind of restructure so that we can create more of a lifestyle type of business.
Yes.
The kids can work their 40 hours a week, still play, but maybe we need to develop the key employees more and create incentive programs for them to want to grow and create kind of an ownership mentality with that.
Yeah.
So those
It's
are
almost like
probably
professionalizing the firm, right? I think it would actually, like, taking them from, like, value creator mindset it would be
Right.
kind of, I mean, is it difficult? So because you're working with that next gen and they're saying, are they saying they want the business, but they don't want to work for, more than 40 hours a week?
That's some, yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
some
a lot
them,
of times
right?
that's the way it goes, yeah.
So do they have built-in successors? Like, if it's not the kids, who is it? Is it their general manager? Is it
Sometimes, a lot of times, it's a key employee, it's a general manager, or maybe collective ones. ESOPs are becoming more popular, but again, a lot of these shops don't have the EBITDA to be able to support a ESOP. So again, that's kind of a specialized sort of thing. But there's a lot of different things that we do. I mean, sometimes we utilize, it's about building value, increasing free cash flow that we use to bonus the employees. We create a shareholder agreement, give them 49%, but it's tied to a note that they pay through distributions.
Interesting.
One thing I really like doing is if they're really committed to keeping the business, is do a C corp.
Okay.
And then we can create programs to do stock purchases, which are taxed at ordinary income instead of or capital gains instead of ordinary income. Yeah. All right. And they can still kind of keep their fingers in it, because the biggest challenge you run with collision shop owners is you can take the boy out of the shop, but you can't take the shop out of the boy. And so
they coming back around a lot?
And there's, that's one of the big challenges. A lot of times when I'm talking to them, it's like, I'd like to exit, but, I'd still like to do some work on cars. And so a lot of times we'll have a bay set up for them, and they work on their personal restoration projects, or maybe their buddies, and do those sort of things. Because like I said, it's what they've done all their life.
Well, it's their craft,
Right.
And as baby boomers, right, they're kind of tied to that too, right? Without that personal plan yet, right? They're still wanting to come back in. What about, so that's the internal options. What about like my wife got in an accident like a few months ago, but we went to a big franchised place, right? So our franchise is looking to convert privately owned kind of shops into franchise models?
Well, of course they do.
Yeah.
Of
So
course they
you
do.
get some people recruiting your type of clients to say, hey, come into this model.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest challenge. The problem is right now. So about a year ago, the money was sick. I mean, it was like consolidators. They were buying anything that's out there. That's starting to now. It's becoming very regionalized, and I think eventually, once they're in the markets, they're going to be very selective. I was telling the girls last night, I said, one of the benefits with the independent shop, but also, how do I phrase this? They've got to start looking at doing business a different way. Okay. Yeah. The average labor rate in a mechanical shop, for example, is $125 an hour. Okay. Okay. In the collision industry, the insurance company is only paying $40 an hour. That's a big discrepancy. Okay.
Yeah, because you have to. It's all. Yeah, a lot of almost all is probably insurance work, right?
Oh yeah. Oh right. Yeah. So now you've got this independent shop owner who's got this conflict. Do I do the right thing, repair the vehicle the way it's supposed to be repaired, and possibly not get paid for it, or do I just do what the insurance company's telling me? So I was talking to Jocelyn because she's got a Subaru, and I know this case specifically because I had a client that had a Subaru that came in front end collision. The and Subaru steering columns are built. There's 2 pins that are in them. So on a front end collision, those pins snap and the steering column collapses to protect the driver.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So it was a front end collision. The owner goes in, checks the OEM specs, and it says steering column needs to be replaced. So they put that on the repair plan. Insurance company says, no, we just want you to fix it. Just weld it. All right.
Oh, man.
Okay. So now you see the conflict that do I do this, what the insurance company's telling me, and possibly put the customer at risk?
Yeah.
Or do I do the right thing? But there's going to be a difference of $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 in the repair plan. And then how do I do this? Do I just tell the customer, you got to pay for this? Or do I educate the customer on what their rights are with the insurance company? So
interesting.
And they're kind of taking both. Some shops are doing one, some shops are doing the other. We're really big on trying to teaching sales skills and educating the customers, because you went to the franchise place. Why? Because it was probably the closest pace, and maybe the insurance company, that's what they told, because they had a DRP program.
Yeah, they told me to go there. Yeah.
Right.
They told, and it was close, right? So
exactly,
it's close. It's like 10 minutes away.
Right. But knowing what I know now, I get friends of mine that are in Rex. Who should I go to? And I tell them, I need you to go to my guy. Well, he's 35 miles away. Yeah, but I know Ron's going to fix the car the way it's supposed to be fixed.
Should be, and not cut corners or anything too. Yeah, that's quite interesting.
And that's a differentiator for the independent business.
That is a differentiator. And so then some go another step further. And so the private equity groups, are they interested in this space too? Are they like rolling up a bunch of this stuff?
Yeah, because the profit margins are pretty good. And if a correctly run shop really has good free cash flow. Yeah. So they're buying it for the return on the investment.
Yeah. What about, there's when I was preparing for our interview today too, there's a group in Cleveland, and you've probably seen this model other places, but it's a program associated to Case Western Reserve University.
Okay.
And what they do, I think it's called Promise Partners, right? So what they do is match people graduating from an MBA program.
Okay.
And match them with people trying to sell their company that don't have successors. So
really?
smaller company. I just thought about this in the collision space where it says, look, I'm an owner-operator type business. I don't want to sell to the franchise. I don't want to sell to the PE. I wish I had a guy that I could develop. I don't have a son or daughter in the business, but I wish I had a guy that I could develop over generations and do something like what you were talking about, is like gradually sell shares to them.
Right.
So you see that at all? Do you see like them grooming a successor that's non-family?
That's one of the things that I do with them.
Yeah, you bring
They're
it
not
in.
really aware of that. That's
an interesting exit option for them that you can help them with.
Right. Oh yeah, that's a lot of what I do.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Is grooming next gen folks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
next gen and key employees.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the key employees, right? Do you find that the employees have it in them, like from a standpoint of like, hey, I'm, John is going to be exiting this company. He's 65, 70 years old. I love working here. Like, I'd love to buy this thing from him.
Yeah, some do, some don't.
Yeah. So how do they finance it?
Well, again, so let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So it's a client I'm working with right now. He's got a very successful shop. We've taken him to it. We've talked to an M&A person. It would be a prime candidate for a consolidator, but he's got this key guy. And he's really just he's dedicated to his employees, and especially this key guy. And he goes, ultimately, I'd like to sell it to him, but I don't know if he wants it or if he's able to do it.
Yeah, afford it.
So we started talking, and I said, well, first of all, we started talking with Greg, the key guy, and he's interested in buying it. He's still leery because he's never owned a business before. And so what we've done is we've created this. So we created a shareholder agreement. Mm-hmm. It's basically we did 49% to Greg, okay. 51% to the owner because we want him to maintain control. But the 49% is tied to a note, so we're utilizing free cash flow. He's getting 49% of the distributions. Pay the tax out of that. Remainder goes back to start paying down the note. So he'll start kind of actually acquiring these shares a little bit over the time. But if he backs out at some point, and my client's like, look, if we end up going third party, I don't mind him getting a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So very generous guy.
Yeah, that's generous.
So that's one way that we can do that. I always want to put that plan B in place.
Yeah.
Because you never know when a plan's going to blow up on you.
That's for certain. So more of maybe a technical question. Okay. By the way, that Subaru story that you had. Yeah. Did you learn that from just working with these guys, or did you are you a car guy, or you didn't?
No, I learned it from working with these guys. You learned working. Yeah,
it's just so fascinating to see how integrated you are in that whole Subaru story. Like there's two pins that go in like this, and I'm like, and to your point though, it's super fascinating though because if the steering column collapses, you got to weld it, right? Like I never thought about that.
Right.
So did you have some aha moments along the way as well? Like we were like, oh man, I've been doing this wrong because I'm sure you got in an accident before over your lifetime, right?
Oh, exactly.
Like where you're like. Man, it's just so fascinating to me, the specialization and how much you've learned to be able to tell that story.
Well, and it's interesting. One thing with vehicles is, and what people don't realize, they're computers on wheels now.
Yeah, I'm totally with that. Yeah,
there's 50,000 data points on a vehicle right now, and in 15 years it'll be 500,000. So you wonder why you dent your bumper and you take it to the shop and it's a $3,500 job, and people go, "What? It's just a bumper. Can't you pull that thing out?" All the sensors, you gotta replace all the sensors. Yep. You've got to calibrate all those sensors and make sure the ADAS systems are working together. So it's very complicated.
How has that changed? I mean, since you're exposed into this space, how has that changed over time for them too, right? Because like I have a 1966 Ford Mustang, right?
Yeah.
Pop that hood open, like you could fit like 3 people next to the engine under the hood, right? Easy to work on.
Yep.
You pop even my Ford F-150, 2021 Ford F-150 open right now.
It's crazy.
You're jammed in there, man.
Yeah.
And then all the computer components, like I just took, like here in Ohio, I don't know what it's like in Pennsylvania, but here in Ohio, we have like a e-check, like an emissions check.
Yeah,
so in order to renew my license every other year, or my tags every other year, I got to take it through a free Ohio e-check, right? So they're making sure that there's no crazy emissions, no oil leaks, gas leaks.
Right.
I remember taking my old cars in there and having to put it on the wheel, the things that, make it go, right? Now they're like, sir, can you step out of the car, stand on the yellow square, and they just plug a computer right into that thing. So like thinking about, and some of these guys that you're working with that have owned their collision repair shops for 30, 40 years,
right?
They've seen a wild transition of technology.
Oh, big time. And that's another reason why a lot of them are looking for a transition, because they're just it's starting to get overwhelming.
Yeah.
And again, it's we can get paralyzed by what we don't know.
Yeah.
But what I try to teach them is, but your kids or your younger employees or they get this stuff. They get technology.
Right.
And, I got a young shop owner that I do work with. He's just bought, they have these new units now. Actually, dealerships were buying them, and now he's testing one out. And it's like an MRI for your vehicle. So basically,
really?
They drive it in, and it just starts scanning the whole thing. It tells you every single repair, every single dent that's in the vehicle.
That's wild.
Insurance companies hate it because now they can't fight it. They can't.
Yeah, it's like it's going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty obvious if the steering column's cracked.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can't get away with the weld.
Right. Right. So but this is where technology is going. But young people, and I think it's actually interesting, the psychology of this group. A lot of them, have poor self-images because they kind of think of themselves, and a lot of people identify themselves as, I guess, like grease monkeys or just like, but it's so highly technical that most people don't realize like what they've had to go through.
Right.
That.
And some of the training, I was talking to Terry from the generational group. He grew up in an auto parts company. Talking about NASCAR, and just think about like those tire changes and all those guys. Like they have schooling, they train. They're actually a hell of a lot more technical than you think.
Oh yeah, big time.
So what about the collision guys when it comes to the electric vehicle? That's got to be another disruptor.
Oh, big time. Yeah. That's a whole different animal.
Right?
Some are embracing it, and some don't want to embrace. And it actually, I don't blame them because there's a lot of safety issues that are involved with those. So, I mean, I was at one of the collision industry conferences, and they had a guy from, I forget what the testing organization, they're actually based out of Ohio, and he was showing a picture of this Tesla front end collision, and he asked the group, he goes, how many of you shop owners would take this into your shop? And probably about 70% of them said they would. And then he showed it. This was 3 days later. Car caught fire because it hadn't been discharged properly and took out 3 other cars on the lot.
Oh, yeah, not great.
So they're whole different animals. But just a prospect I was talking to today, he got Tesla certified, and now they're like killing it because he said about 40% of his business is all Tesla.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And so I think the independent shop is about offers differentiating yourselves. OEM certifications are going to be huge because if your car is designed, if your Ford F-150 is designed to protect you and your family, you want it repaired the way the manufacturer designed it, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to go to a shop that is Ford certified.
Okay? Sure. Yeah, exactly right.
So I think the industry is going to get specialized. Like I have my niche. I think they're going to get niche, and it may just be Teslas or I know a guy in North Carolina. All they do is Euro luxuries.
Yeah. See, I was going to say too. Interesting perspective is, do you think the trades are going to come back? Like I think that like my son's 10 and they're into tech, engineering, doctors, stuff like that. Going to college, going a 4-year degree, maybe even getting another long degree or another degree after that. But do you think some of the trades are going to come back, like the auto mechanic, the collision repair guy? Right?
They're going to come back, but they're going to be much more technical and highly specialized.
Interesting.
And I tell my kids all the time because my wife's always big. They got to go to college. They're smart kids. I'm like, well, you know what's funny? My collision guys make more money than my physicians, and they don't have $300,000 worth of debt. They don't have $100,000 a year medical malpractice insurance.
They probably don't even have a college degree. A lot of them, right? Because these are guys that started these things out of their friggin' garage,
right?
And now have a 5, 6, 7, 10 bay shop where they're repairing all kinds of cars every day with multiple employees.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so I think that I asked that question a lot in last year's episodes too, because I always say that my brother-in-law always laughs. He's got a 2-year-old son. He's like, dude, when he can kick a football, I'm just going to have him start kicking footballs, right? You can play till you're 45 years old because you don't get hit all that hard, you know?
Right.
And you make a league minimum of $750,000, right?
Yeah, right.
I always say, too, the underwater welding, that's another good one, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
underwater
really
welding.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that you see so many people in my generation going to these, have long-term debt and long, because of their college degrees, and there's not enough people going into the trades, like an excavator, operator, an auto mechanic, and things of that nature. Is recruiting difficult in that industry, finding really good talent?
Oh, yeah, huge. I mean, I think it's like any place, but especially in the collision industry, because, we've kind of, we've done a disservice to our kids, like trying to push everybody to college.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Back when I was growing up, we had the Votex. And so kids went into trades, but now they've closed all of those because they've been, pushing everybody to all these kids to college. And so we don't have enough people that are out there. We look down on people that do trades. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, you start like working on a vehicle. It's highly technical. I mean, when you've got a working computer, that's on wheels.
Yeah.
It's not something. It's not like you stick the plunger in and pull the dent out anymore.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So I think we've really done a disservice to our young people by discouraging the trades.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that even, like I said, with my kids, and that I'm really kind of a proponent of is start getting people back into the trades.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think there's a need. We need bricklayers. We need plumbers. We need
electricians. You're certainly going to need it as these guys transition too, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
we this year we launched our National State of Owner Readiness Survey results, and they're looking at 75% of owners are still saying, I want to transition in the next 10.
I know.
And there's an even bigger chunk transitioning in the next 5.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, I just think in your business, right, and these collision repair shop owners, if they don't have successors built in, like they're running out of options for transition.
That's true.
Because they don't even they might not have a successor built in because it's hard to find talent because no one specializes in that anymore. They're going to be a doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I would assume it's a challenge for them.
It is, but one of my big initiatives this year is, because I get too many of those guys that are, again, we're 55 to 65. They're looking at transitioning. Yeah. And what I'm really trying to focus on, a lot of my marketing is to hit, get the guys that are 7 to 10 years out and saying, let's build value first 100%. And let's start to evolve the business. So then when that eventual time comes, I mean, how many people are going to exit their business? All of them.
Yeah,
right.
Everybody.
Yeah,
right.
At some point.
Yeah.
So let's put ourselves in a position and let's start working at this. So really that's where the whole value building is really where I'm putting a lot of focus right now.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
So I got to take a quick break, but when I come back, there's something that I want to talk to you about. I was watching in my prep. You're doing a bunch of podcasts, right? It might have been on one of your own or one of you were getting interviewed on. It said about your life affecting your business. You said your life affects your business and your business affects your life.
Yes.
Right. And I would even assume in smaller companies, it's even more personal.
Exactly.
And so I want to talk to you about that after a quick break. So
okay.
We'll be right back.
Is she bringing the pierogies?
Oh, the pierogies. So before we hit the break, so we were at the game. We were at a Cavs game last night, and the halftime show was Joey. Is his name Joey Chestnut, the hot dog eating guy. But here in Cleveland, right, we got a big Polish community. We like pierogies. Mm-hmm. So they did a pierogi eating contest, and I think he ate 39 pierogies in 2 minutes.
That. Oh, yeah.
And so we said that we were going to try to do that. So, no, I don't think they brought the pierogies, and I think I could only take down maybe 5 in 2 minutes.
I'm about you.
Maybe I could do better on the hot dog challenge.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I'm saying the pierogi's full of potato and doughy.
True.
Like, I don't know how you're... It was real nasty. You guys got to catch it, YouTube it or something. We'll be right back. Just stick with us.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snyder's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snyder presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snyder's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Everybody, welcome back to the show. So we kind of walked our way all the way through all the unique things about the collision repair stuff. It's super, super interesting. Like I said it right before the break, I saw you get interviewed in a podcast, and you said something that certainly hit me. You said that your life affects your business, and your business affects your life. And what we talk a lot about is that business is personal, right? I really don't. And I think a lot of us were trained as younger entrepreneurs to keep your personal stuff at the door. Right? Is that it's not like you keep that there. This is business. Yeah. And then when you come home, you leave the business there, attend to the kids, and do all of that. And I just don't think it's like that really at all. Oh. And I think one of the biggest things that we can embrace as owners is knowing that business is personal. There's really nothing different.
That's right.
So talk to me about that. Why do you feel that such a way that your life affects your business affects your life?
Well, think about it. As an entrepreneur, you've created this business, and it's like a child to you. I mean, I do this, especially working on that intergenerational transfers. A lot of times there's conflict because, and the kids just don't understand. Like, well, Dad won't listen to me, or we're fighting, and I tell him, I said, look, I got to explain something to you. Yeah. I said, your dad built this business from the ground up. It is as much of a child to him as you are to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And one of the first things that I do a lot of times when I'm doing these intergenerational meetings is I get the kids, the family together, and I say, Mom and Dad, tell your story. Because most of the kids don't know the story.
Yeah, they haven't really embraced it.
Right. But you think about it. I mean, if business is going bad, that's going to affect you. You can't separate that. Just okay, no, I'm leaving this at the door and going out there. It's going to affect you. If there's a problem in your life, you're having marital problems, or your kids, you find out your kid's addicted to drugs or something, you're going to bring that to the workplace.
100%.
So it's all intertwined, and it's this whole idea of balance. I think is BS.
Yeah, we had this debate last year on the show quite a bit. What do you think it is? Not balanced, but blended? What do you think?
It's a blend. There's sometimes when you have to be more focused on your business.
100%.
There's sometimes when you have to be more focused on your family. There's sometimes you have to be focused on yourself. And one thing, like my coach is really big on renewal time, and he's on me all the time. I need you to take a 3-week, 4-week sabbatical. But what you find when you do that, like when you take time off, and being entrepreneurs, we're never completely out of our business. We're always thinking about our business.
You're always thinking about it.
Yeah, but now you're in a different environment. You're outside your normal environment. You're more relaxed. You're allowing your subconscious mind. And don't you get your greatest ideas then?
I could tell you in February, I took 3 weeks straight away from the business, and I don't think I've ever felt better, honestly, coming back. I was clear-minded. I caught up on some sleep, but that also allows you to think clearer and get great ideas. So for my marketing team, it was probably not great having me come back. So I'm like, guys, I got so much stuff that we can do. But absolutely, I agree. Having that break is critical.
Right. But my point is that you're never really ever out.
You're
of
never
your
really
business.
out. No, you're not.
Yeah. And it's funny. I have a guy, one of the guys I work with, he's got 3 shops, and he's a young guy. He's in his early 40s, and we were talking. He goes, Matt, I finally took 4 weeks off. He took from December 15th to January 15th.
Wow.
He goes, and I did. He goes, I completely detached. I'm like, I try to do that. I'm not always
tough.
great. He said, I didn't look at email. He goes, my business grew more than when I'm there.
Dude, when I came back too, I felt it was actually kind of awkward coming back because the business did well when I was away, and everybody's and they had to make some decisions, while I was away, they combined nicely as a team, and it was weird kind of coming back and being like, okay, so maybe I'll just retire now. I don't know. They're like, Scott, So anyways, that's super productive. So the question I have around this personal planning stuff too is in this kind of lifestyle, maybe owner operator type business, a baby boomer mentality. How are you helping them see life without their business? Like, how are you helping them personal plan? Because in order to create the financial plan, right, you kind of got to know what they want to do, right? Because they got to know how to fund it, their lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you honestly, and I've got to give a shout out to John Denny because I think his the process with Exit Map and helping to do that personal vision, and one thing, he's got a worksheet on there, the personal vision worksheet, and it's like, so you sit down, you're sitting down, okay, all right, so what are you gonna do in life? Well, I like to golf. Okay. How you're not going to golf 24 hours a day? How often? 3 days a week. Okay. All right. So 4 hours, 18. It's 16 hours out of 168. Okay. We pull out sleep. Okay. Then what are you going to do? And they start to see the gaps that are in there.
Interesting.
And so then we can start to get them thinking about, all right, how are we going to fill these gaps? All right. And that's a lot of times where we try to develop solutions that can still allow them to kind of do their trade, do who they are. Yeah. I had one guy who loved to deep sea fish. He was in Sarasota, Florida. And but deep sea fishing is like physically strenuous, and so he's like, I can maybe only do this 1 day a week. And we've kind of developed a solution. He wanted to open a bait shop.
Oh, cool.
So he would work the bait shop. He would fish, when he could. And then we left a bay for him, and he works on his personal projects there. But it takes some time. It just gets them to start thinking outside the box.
And who's running and owning that business for him, though?
His son.
His son is running it now. Okay, cool.
So, but again, it's about, creating the bucket lists.
Yes,
And then
of course.
starting to get them to start visualizing what this life looks like, where are the gaps.
Yeah.
Starting to say, did you ever think about this? Like, you can only golf so much.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think it's always I think particularly for the baby boomer, right, it is because they have a core value of success, right?
Right.
So whether it's the golf game, their business, the relationship with their
Right.
husband or wife,
Right.
they want to feel proud and successful within
Yeah.
it. So having them attach to other things outside of the business is absolutely critical.
Right. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
All right, man, we are at the top of the hour, so I appreciate
right.
you coming in. How long was the drive? Was it bad?
No.
You're outside of Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. So it's about depending on traffic, anywhere from 3:15 to the 3.5.
You a Steelers fan?
Oh, baby, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Oh,
I'm
boy.
a Yinzer, man.
Oh, man. So
I am a
luckily,
Yinzer.
I did not, I never grew up with a really, really good Browns team up until maybe this year.
Right. Well, a couple
and
years,
so
last couple years, yeah.
when the Steelers guys come in and give me a lot of shit, it doesn't really offend me because I'm like, guys, and Dad always wanted to go to games. And I don't know if you've been to Brown Stadium.
Yeah.
Brown Stadium's right on the water.
Right.
And so the lake effect wind is flying in there. And I've never understood football fans where I'm like, dude, you want to go in, it's 19 degrees, negative 14 with the wind chill and watch this game right now? And then old school Browns just kind of get our ass kicked.
Right,
So,
exactly.
but nowadays it's a lot different. There's a lot of guys that love the Browns here in town. My dad, my family is a
Yeah.
huge fan. So, but my father-in-law, massive Steelers fan.
Cool. Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
so it's
All right.
always a great family debate.
Yeah, I get
during
it.
NFL season. So
Well, I grew up with the '70s Steelers,
yeah,
so
of
that's
course,
where
yeah,
why I have the affinity
absolutely.
for it. So.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Our next show, folks, is July 31st. So make sure that you subscribe, listen, and leave a review on all of your podcast platforms. Really appreciate your time, man. It was really nice meeting you. Hopefully we can hang out more.
Oh, definitely. I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.